Students, today I have to be complete the Roman civilization because this is the final part in our syllabus. So the Roman civilization. So in the last class, we completed the certain things regarding Greek civilization, and in between these two civilizations, Greek and Rome, certain links, certain similarities, a few differences you can identify. I already given in the last class, Greeks were the practical intellectuals and practical minded, whereas the Romans, which implemented those things. Not only that, the ancient Greeks gave the world their idea of democracy, art, philosophy, science, literature. The successors, natural successors of the Greeks were the Romans, who added to it their legal system and the statecraft. Okay, so because the things which was initiated by the Greeks, those implemented by the Romans. Whereas while the Greeks always remained disunited in the sense we see the uh, number of groups or races as a part of Greek civilization, like Ionians and other. Maybe you observe certain disunity among the Greeks because overall the civilization divided into certain nation states. Whereas the Romans showed the way to unity and consolidation. Here also we observe certain various races in the Roman civilization, like Italics, Patricians, sorry, Etruscans. Likewise, but the unity among these races we observe. Okay, so whereas the Rome became a one of the city among the Roman civilization, it may be the center of the overall civilization. Okay, everything goes from the Rome itself. Okay, so before going to the details about the Roman civilization, as usual for the other civilizations, where we discuss the things like the sources, geographical conditions, and social structure, economical aspects, political conditions, administrative structure, cultural aspects, as a part of it, the religion, literature, language, dress style, food habits, art and architecture, scientific development. Okay, all these things we discuss for each and every civilization we discussed, or what are in the syllabus. So likewise, today we'll see the location of the geographical location of the Rome. Roman civilization, one of the one of the civilization of the world had certain unique things also, because the famous emperors we identified from the Roman civilization itself, like Julius Caesar, Augustus, Nero, Caligula. Okay, so we can observe the most famous emperors of the world from the Rome. Those may be the good emperors and bad emperors. The good emperors like the Julius Caesar and Augustus. When come to the bad emperors, bad natured emperors like the Nero, Caligula, likewise. Okay, all these from the Roman civilization itself. So before going to those things, because all these things we see in detail while moving with the political things, political conditions. So before going to that, I have to be explain regarding the geographical factors. Like the ancient Greece, the early history of Rome was influenced by certain geographical factors, because the Roman civilization flourished origin on the bank of river Tiber. So Tiber River, one of the most important river flowing through the territories of the Roman civilization, sorry, Roman territories of Roman. And apart from that, we also observe certain mountains and water bodies. So the mountains in the north, nothing but the Alp mountain, and the seas surrounded on all other three sides have given the Italy its natural protection. Okay, like the India, also a peninsula, Greek, also a peninsula, because the three sides surrounded with water. So likewise, the Roman civilization also a peninsula, where three sides which is surrounded by water and one side a landlocked. So however, hmm, yes, yes. Okay, so it means what? It's like a peninsula where it got a natural protection from the three sides, and uh, it didn't prevent the hosts, the races, the groups of people of certain tribes entering Italy through various passes. Okay, like India, where the external invasions, uh, invaders entered in India through the Himalayan passes. Even though it's a somewhat, it's a it's a task. Even though they entered, yeah, yeah, through the Bolan and Khyber passes. Okay, even though it's a somewhat a great ideals, even though they entered in India. Likewise, to the Roman civilization, Roman territories, certain in external invaders entered the Roman territories. And the Apennine Mountains, which run north south along with the eastern coast, and made it certain possibility for Rome to dominate over the entire peninsula. So that's a advantage for the Rome. And certain climatic conditions also you'll observe. Here we see the mild climatic conditions, and you also see the on the both sides of Tiber River we have plenty of fertile soil, which is well suitable for the cultivation. Okay, these are certain geographical location of the Italy, sorry, the Roman civilization. When come to the races, the groups of people who entered in the territories of the Rome. Okay, so the Roman civilization, which is approximately start from 2000 BC onwards. So as usual, where you see the number of races in all other civilizations. Likewise, here also you have certain tribes which is settled in the territories of Rome, one tribe after other, one group of after other. So approximately around 1800 BC, a group of Indo-Europeans called Italics came to Italy through the Alpine mountain passes, through the Alpine mountain passes. So among them, the most important group which settled in the a Latin region of the Latin, which where we call as Latvium. Okay, so Latvium is nothing but central plains of Italy, which is lying south of the river Tiber. So yes, sir, it's a modern concept. I am talking with only the ancient geographical. Yeah, yeah. The Italy is connected with other parts of the Europe. Okay, so the Greek region at the Italy at that time means around 3000 2000 BC, around 2000 3000 BC. Such a tribes called Gauls, Gals, Gauls. Gauls are the tribe which origined from the France and Germany. Okay, so the Gaul, the people, Gaul, Gaul, the people who origined from the France and Germany, which dominated the Roman Greek also. They touched the territories of Roman Greek civilizations. Okay, it means it's a land route. The people of France or the people from Germany, they can easily enter the Italy. Okay, so likewise, there is a well connection of the Italy, present Italy, or ancient East and Western Rome. They have well connected with the Rome, sorry, Europe, and which is as a acted as a bridge in between the Central Asia and Europe. Okay, so you already known regarding this in your other paper, world history, because the Constantinople was the capital of Eastern Rome, which is nothing but a Byzantine Empire, which is dominated by the Turks. Okay, so due to that, the geographical discoveries, in the sense the sea routes has discovered, because land was closed by the Turks. and they created certain restrictions so that the people from the Central Asia and the people of Europe not mutually entering in these two regions, so that the Europeans seeking the new route, nothing but a sea route to the entering the Asia and other parts. So it's a well-known fact. But the territory of Rome is a well-centered location. Okay, so I will give you. We are not going such a things because we have to see only the things which are in our syllabus related to the Roman civilization. That's it. Okay, so the first people, the group of the people who entered in the Roman territories were the Italics. The Italics who came to the Italy through the Apennine mountain passes and entered and settled in the Lativium. Lativium is the central plains of Italy, which is very located on southward or southern part of the river Tiber. Okay, so next, these were very the people of smooth going. They spoke Latin and learned use of bronze because the Bronze Age has started in the Roman territory around 2000 BC. So the Latins began to live in small walled villages for the protection. They established several such villages in the mid of Seven Hills near the west coast overlooking the river Tiber. Seven Hills, where the city of Rome established. So the Rome became the center of the Roman civilization later. So then the Latins were not the only people who settled in Italy or Italian territories or Roman territories. Then came another group, nothing but the Etruscan. So Etruscans were somewhat a civilized people. They are from Asia Minor who settled on the land lying north of the river Tiber. Okay, so around 800 BC. So after Italics, the Etruscans who entered and dominated over the Italics, because the Italics was somewhat smooth going people, they are peace loving people, whereas the Etruscans were a civilized people and they are war like minded people, so that generally they definitely dominates over the other, nothing but the Italics. So the same happened here. The Etruscans dominated over the Italics. So in the far south of the Italy, the Greeks had established their colonies. They occupied the eastern part of the Roman civilization also. But Italics had certain importance here because they are the originers. The Etruscans who dominated over the Italics, and later all the things which is run by Etruscans itself, because the Etruscans totally dominated over the Italics and the other groups of the people who settled in the Roman civilization. Okay, so the Latins, which came under the civilized Etruscan rule, and the Etruscans, which overall domination over the territories of the Rome, but the Etruscans learned certain things from the Italics, and where the Italics were lived in a well planned manner, where they constructed such a buildings with the stone, such a arches they constructed, and such a drainage system, where we discussed in the Indus Valley, and we also observed that such a drainage system where the Romans also followed. Even though they learned, the Etruscans learned this from the Italics, and they are fighting with the people who try to enter in these regions. They are protecting the Roman territories, not captured by the others. So the Etruscans were they are driven out the Latins, and they started such a systematic ruling over the Roman territories. So I will give you certain political things what happened in the Rome. Then I will move to the various emperors who ruled the Roman civilization or territories of Roman civilization. Then I'll move to other things like the society, all those things. So where the Romans, nothing but the Etruscan people, who started a systematic ruling here. So the ruling may be like a aristocratic nature, because the ruling may be under certain maybe followed by a group of people, a group of persons. So the group of persons who were called as the rulers, called with a name of the patrician. Patricians or patrician class was the ruling class who are dominating over the overall the territories of Rome. They enjoyed the political, social, and economic privileges because they are the only persons who rule efficiently those the Roman territories. So among them, among the patrician class, two magistrates known as the consuls. So the consuls chosen every year from the patrician became the head of the Roman government. So it's a one of the important thing you can observe, because the administrative structure is a well structured system you observed here. The administrative well structured nature you can observe from the Roman civilization, whereas the administrative structure practically and theoretically proved by the Greeks, and as a practical minded people implemented those things in the Roman civilization. And one more thing we have to be mentioned here that I have to mention here that the most important, the political body where the well-known the body you can observe in the majority of the countries of the world at present, the body called with the name of Senate. So the Senate, which having a nearly 300 patricians. So patrician is a class nothing but a ruling class in the Roman civilization. And in certain times of emergency, a dictator was chosen by the Senate for a term of a 6 months or likewise. It's a temporary arrangements maybe they follow. So such type of things, a systematic administrative things you get from the Roman civilization. And then come to certain political things what which happened in the Roman civilization, that I will give you one or two things before the ruling of Julius Caesar and Augustus. So there is a continuous class with the Romans, with the Carthage. The Carthage is a region which is lying on the North African coast. North African coast because nothing but very near to the Egyptian civilization, because Egypt was in the northern part of Africa. So there is a clash in between, means when the Romans crossed the Mediterranean, they definitely entered in the Carthaginian region. So there is a clash between the Carthage and the Rome. So it is Carthage is a somewhat wealthy region, and their navy, a powerful fleet which is dominate over the Mediterranean, and the armies of Carthage gain control over the North Africa region, and other parts which is adjoining to the African present European parts which are adjoining to the Mediterranean, like the Sardinia, Croatia, Sicily, Spain. Okay, all these are at present territories which are adjoining to the Mediterranean, and the overall the territories was dominated by the Carthage itself at that time. So there is a continuous conflict between the Rome and Carthage. So the first one which is broke out in 264 BC. So it's called as the War of Punic, the Punic War. So where the which is no result has we identified from the first Punic War. In 208 BC, the second Punic War was started, and when the Hannibal was a Carthaginian general who was attacked certain regions of Mediterranean, so very close to as a part of the Roman civilization. After that, the Hannibal, the ruler of Carthage, which marched towards the Alps and other parts of Spain and France, Gaul, where the Gauls were settled. And all those things which came under control of this Carthaginian domination, which was led by the Hannibal. So, and he was ruled over those territories up to 13 to 15 years. By observing that, the Senate of the Senate of Roman Empire appointed a dictator called the Fabius Maximus to deal the Hannibal. So, and his name, original name was the Fabius Maximus, and he generally called as the cunctator. Okay, cunctator. Uh, and another cunctator, and he taken the task, and later he won against the Hannibal, and all the territories which are under control of Hannibal came under the Roman civilization. So then the Romans destroyed the Carthage region, and overall Carthaginian region came under control of the Rome itself, and the Rome was expanded. The Roman civilization and the territories was expanded under the leadership of Cato, and later the Macedonia and parts of Greeks also comes under the Roman territory, Roman civilization, Roman Empire. So then the dictatorship became a tradition as a part of Roman administration. So later certain civilian conflicts has taken place as the Roman Empire, and they selected a ruler called as the Julius Caesar, and he became a dictator later, and his ruling has called as the golden age in the history of Roman civilization, because he followed such a things here. Okay, so I will give you the what are the reforms followed by Julius Caesar and later the Augustus. And before going to that, I will give you the certain things regarding the society first of all. Then I will move to the political conditions and economical conditions. So, like other civilizations, in the Roman civilization also we identified certain divisions. Here also we observed the three divisions here. One is the upper division is the first, and middle division, which is at the second, and the third division, it's a lower division. So here two divisions are we are well known, because the first division is nothing but the patrician, where the patricians were dominated. So it's called as the patricians, the ruling class. Along with the ruling class, we identified the landlords, merchant class, and priestly class. So all these are comes under the first division of the patrician. Next one is the common people. It's a second division, nothing but the plebeians. So plebeians was the second division of the people, may be called as the middle division, who were denied certain powers and the privileges, but these people started are challenging the patricians regarding their rights. They revolted, made certain struggles also, and finally they got certain concessions from the patricians, like they got means like the right to intermarry with the members of patricians or patrician families, right to hold public offices or getting certain positions in the administration likewise. And the fusion between the two classes, the patricians and the plebeians, which made the Roman truly a republic and a democratic form of government, or in a certain character. So not only that, we can see it's a truly democratic. Certain laws of Rome you can see in the form of 12 tables. Okay, I will give you what are the 12 tables while moving with the administration. So it's a democratic nature you identify. So laws of Rome in the form of 12 tables as a guarantee of protection of the lower class people. So it's a really a important thing you can administrative thing you can observe from the Romans. Okay, so then I will give you the society, or who are the other people who entered in the Rome other than the Italics Etruscans. And I will also give you how the Rome emerged as the important city or a center of the Roman civilization. So Rome, which was a small city, certain legendary things that uh, two brothers, Romulus and Remus, which constructed a city on the Palatine Hill in and around 753 BC. So the Palatine Hill, which was a part of the Seven Hills, and later it became a center of the Roman Empire, and it continues its legacy. It became a big empire later, Roman Empire, and the Rome became a important city, and the on the name of the Rome itself, the civilization as mentioned are known by the world. So in the early years, Rome, which is faced such a important attacks, where the Equanians on the east, the Etruscans from the north, Volscians from the south, Gauls on one side. So likewise, after the Italics entered, later all these tribes tried to capture the territories of tried to capture the territories of Roman Empire, Roman civilization. Among them, the Etruscans dominated over all these tribes and captured those Roman civilization, territories of Roman civilization, started their settlement. So unfortunately, these Latins, nothing but the Italics, got united and formed a political league under the leadership of Rome, and attacks of their enemies were effectively defended. So, and then the Gauls, a warlike people which was from the France and German territories at present, they also started attacks from the northern part of the Rome. Sometimes they burned it also. even though it was saved by the people like the Italics and the Etruscans. Combinedly, they protected, they defended. And after the Samnites also invaded and they entered through the Apennine mountains, and they also settled in certain parts. Likewise, you see such a integrity of the people in the Roman civilization. Even though the Etruscans, a dominant tribe, a race, which was overall domination of the Etruscans, the Roman civilization has continued later. So uh, then come to the Rome and the Carthage, and I will already given that certain class in between the Carthage and Rome, and the Rome became a truly a strongest civilization or empire. One by one, the dictators came. Among them, the Julius Caesar became a dictator. He ruled very effectively, and during his time, you definitely say that it's a truly a golden age. So among them, during the time of the Julius Caesar's rule, he started certain important reforms as a emperor. So here, the Julius Caesar, along with other two important personalities, Crassus and Pompey, by combination of these three, we call as the first triumvirate. It's a according to the Senate instructions, these three, a group of three, selected as a rulers of the Rome, and among these three, the Julius Caesar became a pioneer, and he killed other two, Crassus and Pompey, and he uh, became a dictator. So the Julius Caesar killed Pompey and he became the dictator, and Julius Caesar showed such a respect to the republican form of traditions which you observed in the Roman civilization. He was followed such a serious reforms like improvement in the agriculture, reduction in taxes, removal of corrupt and oppressive officials, and granting citizenship to the people which is attached to the Roman civilizations like the Sicily and Gaul people. And he distributed the public lands, and he started public works department, improving coinage system, introduced a Julian calendar. Okay, so all these are such a important reforms you identified from the Julius Caesar's reign. So after the Julius Caesar, another important a triumvirate has came to the power, because in the March 44 BC, the Julius Caesar enemy Brutus, who assassinated the Caesar, then Octavian, a grand nephew of Julius Caesar, came to the power. Okay, I will tell you how the Octavian came to the power. So when the Julius Caesar killed by Brutus, so the Senate selected Octavian as a temporary ruler along with others. Okay, others were the Mark Antony and Lepidus. Okay, so these three called as the second temporate. So among these three, so Octavian, who was dominated over these Mark Antony and Lepidus, and he killed both the Mark Antony and Lepidus, and he became a dictator. So because the Mark Antony, which is in charge of the eastern parts, and Sicily was became a in charge of Sicily, and all those things were comes under control of the Octavian. So later, the Octavian, which became the dictator, and he started ruling with the name of Augustus. So, so Augustus ruling also a great rule, and his ruling also you can call as a golden age, because such a important reforms he followed in his tenure. So the Augustus is sometimes as a golden age in the history of Rome, and it was known for the peace and prosperity. He introduced several administrative and economic reforms. Uh, he introduced such a things like he appointed efficient officials and governors at the province, because the governors has to follow the census of the population in their respective provinces, and also maintain records regarding their wealth of the citizens, carried out in order to bring about a fair distribution of taxes. And the emperor kept poor people happy by supplying food grains at free of cost, and he established such a social welfare department. So based from the social welfare, he distributed lands and food grains also to the people who are uh, very far away for that, the the people who are not getting such a sufficient food, those who not having the land, so that they worshipped him as a god. And he undertook the public works scheme to bring out the employment opportunities also. And Augustus spent a lot of money on public works like the construction of public buildings, roads, bridges, amphitheaters, and fountains likewise. And the most among them was the Colosseum, a large amphitheater which accommodated nearly 50,000 people, and the baths of Carcalla. And he constructed highways from highways means the roads which from the provinces to the city Rome, which is for the various purpose facilitating trade and commerce, and exercising political control over the various provinces. So that no doubt in uh, saying that all roads leads to the Rome. So it's a saying you are well known. And it is no surprise that Augustus could say with the pride, I found Rome a city of bricks and turned it to a city of marble. So during his tenure, the Rome was experienced a lot of wealth and expansion. So the Roman Empire under the Augustus maintained a diplomatic and commercial contacts with a number of countries. Countries in the sense other regions of the world, mainly with the Asia. So and the code of conduct also implemented from the Augustus age onwards. So the first code came in the form of 12 tables in 150 BC, which inscribed on the. Okay, so before that, I will give some other things regarding uh, the Augustus, where he encouraged other things like art and literature. Okay, during his tenure, you find a number of poets and writers and historians. So among them, Livy, a Roman historian, wrote the Annals. Annals, nothing but history of Rome. And Virgil, who was a important poet you identified, and who was encouraged by the Augustus, and who wrote an epic poem Aeneid. Okay, so Aeneid, one of the important poem as a part of a literature of Rome. So and other famous writers like the who are in pioneers in the Latin literature, like the Ovid, Horace, and Pliny, Juvenal, Tacitus. So such a important writers and poets you observe. Not only that, so Augustus takes the credit for establishing the Pax Romana, so Roman peace, uh, which prolonged nearly the 5 centuries. Okay, such a great ruler you can say. When come to the successors of Augustus, the successor of Augustus was his son Tiberius, who proclaimed himself as a Roman emperor. So the emperors who ruled the Roman Empire was alternatively by the good and bad rulers like Caligula and Nero. Okay, so already given such a bad rulers also you see from the Roman Empire. So in the long list, a good emperors after the Augustus and Julius Caesar, one more a best emperor called as the Marcus Aurelius. So he was a great philosopher come a ruler who wrote a great text called Meditations. So Meditations, a great text from the Marcus Aurelius. So the general decline of the Rome has started after the death of Marcus Aurelius. Okay, then the Constantine divided the empire into the two parts, the east and the capital of the Byzantine, and the west with the Rome. So he brought about the unity between the two parts and shifted capital from Rome to the Constantinople. Okay, so it's a general history of the Rome. Then after the Marcus Aurelius, the legacy of Rome has gradually declined. So the constant invasions of the barbaric rites, like the German tribes, like the Gauls and Huns. So the the Roman civilization has gradually declined. And the lack of such a leadership and the disciplined army is also one of the reason to decline. And due to the weak emperors, also one of the reason to decline of the Roman Empire. Okay, such a great history you can see of the Roman Empire. When you come to the Roman administration, like the other civilizations, we observed certain decentralized system of administration here, where the government at the central level and overall the empire divided into certain provinces, and again the provinces into the blocks, and then it's a the basic unit, the villages are likewise. So where you find the such a uh, such a efficient officials appointed by the Roman emperors at the central level and the village level also. So when you see the greatness of Roman Empire or administration, the law, the course of law which started in the Roman civilization, you have to be mentioned. So there is no exaggeration to say that their laws had made profound impact on almost all civilized nations of the world. So majority of the countries observed their administration from the Mauryan Empire itself. So the first code of conduct came with the form of 12 tables, which was on the 12 tables of the bronze and a bronze rectangular shape structure on the marble stone, which was publicly displayed in the forum. Forum in the sense it's a public place called the marketplace. So the Roman government appointed a special judge, uh, Praetor Peregrinus, to look into matters related to the rights of the natives and the foreigners who are living in the Rome. And the Roman laws came to completely classified and codified only after lapse of the several centuries, and the great Eastern Roman Emperor Justinian, who undertook this enormous task and succeeded in completing the code named after him, the Justinian Code. So the Justinian had a great contribution in it. So another important principle that they adopted, that all citizens, however high or low, they may be equal before the law. So according to the Justinian Code of law, no deviation, no partiality among the people who are rich or poor, or any bias, no bias, and all are equal before the law. So it's a great thing we see in the other parts of the world. Still, it's a continuing the structure as a part of law. So when come to the other things like the cultural aspects, so the among the cultural aspects, religion was the important thing. So it's the religion when you see the religion of Romans, they worship such a gods and spirits at their home, particularly the people at their homes, houses. They did not build temples, but you cannot see such a huge temples. You see the number of temples in Roman civilization, a huge structured temples also, sorry, structured buildings you identified, but you cannot see the temple like structures, temple like buildings, you cannot see. But the head of the family offered the simple ceremonies to the family gods and any spirits like they believe. So, influenced by the Greeks later, they started having the prototype of Greek gods in different names. Like god Jupiter was a sky god, whom the Romans considered almighty, because the Jupiter also you will see as a part of Greeks. So the most important goddess was Juno. Mars became the god of war. Ceres became popular with the farmers for for their deity gave good crops. Venus became the goddess of love. Neptune was the sea god, and the Romans had certain beliefs also, certain traditions they followed, rituals they followed. So the Romans observed two important festivals. One is the Lupercalia on 15th February of every year, and Saturnalia is 17th December of every year. So then there was the festival to honor the great mother of gods, Cybele. Cybele. Cybele was the mother of all gods who worshipped by the Romans. So, before going to that, I will give you one of the things regarding the daily life of the Romans, where we are watching on the screen. Okay, so the most early Romans worked small plots and land growing wheat, barley, fruits, beans, and vegetables. They also raised livestock such as pigs, sheep, goats, and chickens. They used oxen to pull their carts. It means the oxen are the bullock carts also you identified. And members of the Roman farm family worked very hard as they only had simple tools available and usually